Take only what you need and leave the land as you found it. I think of this indigenous proverb as I peer into a blue recycling bin outside of the University of Richmond Hillman Dining Center. A styrofoam cup full of orange soda sits near the top of the pile, contaminating the rest of the items and keeping them from being recycled. Most trash receptacles on campus fill up continuously due to the sheer amount of waste produced by single-use items, with members of janitorial services emptying them several times a day. Like the rest of America, in March of 2020, University of Richmond dining services began to adapt to the coronavirus outbreak by making changes to minimize the risk of viral spread in-house. When students returned to campus for the fall semester, they entered a dining hall that was very different from the one they left. To create room for physical distancing, dining seating was reduced from 900 seats to just 260, and staff had been trained to serve food in takeout boxes in plastic containers, placing each meal in a sturdy white plastic bag, along with a pair of plastic utensils. Pre-pandemic, it was possible to walk into the dining hall, serve yourself a portion of food using buffet-style plates, bowls, cups, and metal utensils, consume it, and walk out having only produced dirty dishes. Nothing in the landfill. You could take a muffin on your way out, placing it in a green reusable box. Today, that muffin comes covered in plastic wrap. If you want cantaloupe, it comes in a number 2 plastic container. If you're craving a piece of chocolate cake, it comes with a side order of number 5 plastic, polypropylene, which takes a millennium to decompose. With the dining hall serving between 1,800 and 2,100 meals a day, these items add up. Using this system, the average student on a full dining plan here, getting meal twice a day, has used nearly 400 Pepsi cups and sets of plastic utensils in 7 months of living on campus. It doesn't end there. I talked with student Katie Baker about an inside joke between her and her roommate over the excess of ketchup packets she's collected through the year.
So my roommate and I started just going to D Hall like first week of classes, and then I ended up getting a few extra ketchup packets. I thought it would be funny to tape them all up on the door. And then she's like, I bet you by the end of the semester, you're not going to be able to get the entire door filled with ketchup packets. So I ended up making $10 off of her because by the end of the semester, I had about 500 ketchup packets that are all taped up here. I think first semester, it was very much just, you ask for ketchup and they hand you 5 or 6 packets because that's how many people would want for like a burger and fries or whatever. But if I had one piece of chicken that I was eating, it just wouldn't make sense to have like 5 or 6 ketchup packets because at the end of the day, like you're going to use 1 or 2 and then you've got like these 4 left over. Something that I thought was kind of ironic after collecting all of these was that there's been a Heinz ketchup shortage, so that might explain why suddenly they switched us to West Creek.
Due to an increase in takeout orders from restaurants across the country, the Heinz Ketchup Company could not keep up with demands. Responding to this shortage, the company has promised to increase its packet production by 25%, totaling to 12 billion ketchup packets in 2021. That's enough ketchup to fill over 140 Olympic swimming pools, much of which will likely end up in a landfill.
Not just ketchup, but everything else that's single use. It's easy to just guesstimate how much you're going to need, but it's really hard to make an exact prediction of how much you're going to actually end up using. So as a result, you end up with this, and you end up with Heinz having a ketchup shortage.
There have been efforts from within the dining hall to reduce the amount of waste coming out since the start of the fall semester, including the option to now pick up your own condiments, along with reusable blue bags that have been supplied in place of white plastic ones.
Into the semester, they switched so that you could just grab piles of ketchup off of this bar area, or you could grab your own utensils. You could grab, I think they had other condiments, fruit, stuff like that, which I think has helped reduce waste a lot because instead of just assuming how much you need, you're actually allowed to pick it yourself. I know I'm specifically collecting ketchup packets, but when you go to D Hall and you get your box, you don't eat all of it, or even the little jam packets that they have in the breakfast, whatever. It's crazy to think sometimes I won't eat all of something and I just throw it away without a second thought. So it's just kind of shocking to see that over the course of the semester, this is how much ketchup I would have wasted. And that's just one person on this campus as opposed to like the thousands of people that are here. So it was like, if this is just me, how much waste are we creating overall?
The trash generated on campus is picked up several times a week by county waste and taken to Old Dominion landfill, 14 miles east of the university, where it is compiled into mounds in the earth under a clay and rubber barrier. Here, it will not decompose easily. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. alone produced an estimated 292 million tons of municipal solid waste in 2018. Much of what ends up here could be composted or reused in other ways. This increase in waste has created the push from sustainability advocates on campus for the university to start composting. To find out more, I talked with David Donaldson, operations manager. He's worked in the events office with sustainability to implement zero waste events over the years, which brought him to his role coordinating compost interns as it's been brought to front of house dining locations.
It started off specifically with commencement, and we wanted to see what we could do to make our sustainability initiatives on campus more visible. And those high-profile events, obviously, we're touching students, faculty, parents, alum, staff, everybody at an event like that. So bringing composting into the mix in addition to a bunch of other things, we were able to take the big receptions that happened after the SPCS ceremony and the law ceremony, and we were able to turn those into zero waste events. Like nothing from those events went to the landfill at all. Everything went to the compost, which is great, which is, if we could get to that point where we're using all compostables on campus or all reusables on campus, then we'd be in business. But events are huge waste generators. Like that's just the way it is. Like they're huge waste generators, and it's what kind of items are we putting out that will become waste that we need to focus on there. So like I said before, if we moved all compostables, then that's huge for that, or reusables, stuff that we can take back to the kitchens and wash and then use again. With COVID, yes, we've definitely been using more single-use items, and in a few years we'll see how that has impacted our landfills and such. But, coming from my perspective, I'm only speaking from my perspective here, we've also taken this opportunity at the university to say, hey, composting is something that we really want to do, and let's do it. I think it's also that the university recognizes that without doing this, we're not going to hit that waste diversion goal. We need to add composting across campus. So I don't know that it's been all bad, There's the very visible, like the obvious, like all that stuff's going in. It could be going in the landfill, but here on campus, a lot of places it is going in the landfill. But here on campus, we're doing everything we can to make sure that it's not going to the landfill. So I don't know that it's all bad, because people are learning, people are participating in, and that's only going to be a win.
Sustainability interns have set up camp outdoors during mealtimes to serve as a resource for proper waste disposal. I talked with Rosa Lobo, head of student composting interns, about the benefits of composting and the process of bringing it to campus.
Composting is a way to get rid of biodegradable materials in a more controlled environment that limits any CO2 emissions that would be created in a landfill where things are just decomposing kind of willy-nilly. We keep everything in the compost boxes here on campus, like cardboard, any napkins, any old papers, anything essentially that was once alive and no longer isn't, including food. So once we've collected it all here on campus, the people that we work with, it's a company called NOPE, which stands for Natural Organic Processing Enterprises. They come pick it up the same way the trash man picks up the trash to go to the landfill, and they take it to an off-site location where it's processed in a plant, and then we get 20% of it back to use here on campus. It's going to the garden beds, the flower beds, the community gardens out on the eco corridor. Pretty much anything you see that has flowers on campus probably has a bit of compost acting as fertilizer. I've talked to environmental studies students who Part of the reason that they came here is because they said that we were a very green campus. We get all of our energy from the solar panels. You can go see them on top of the gym. It's a very beautiful campus. It's very eco-friendly. And the composting is just another layer to that story we're trying to tell. I think there was student interest in composting amongst the sustainability interns and the Green UR Club as early as spring 2020. But we really responded to the sort of crisis we were seeing on campus as far as all the plastics and the landfill bins filled to the brim when we came back for fall 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. And that was when the sustainability interns started working at the dining hall tent over in the forum to really focus on educating students with the shadow boxes to sort of show in a three-dimensional way, like this goes here and this goes there, because not a lot of people on campus were familiar with it.
While there is now composting available at several locations on campus, ultimately much of the food that could be nutritious for the soil is still placed in a landfill bin.
I think the largest issue comes down to the fact that we are still in the process of streamlining all the compostable goods at each dining location, because each dining location on campus orders through our facilities, but they get different materials just based on whoever is managing each location.
I applaud the efforts that dining has made and the efforts that like our catering manager and the purchasing department over there have made to do everything they can to source more compostables for our dining locations. I'm hopeful that we can standardize what we're using.
The best way that we can think of sort of educating students about what's compostable is if every place that you could eat on campus had the same kind of takeout boxes, had the same kind of straws, same kind of napkins. And then we would really be able to have one sign that should tell you for each box, this goes here and this goes there. And so the sooner that we can get that more efficient, the sooner I think that more people will be willing to take it up. I think it was an easier transition for me to make on campus as compost because I composted at home. I'm from more of a rural area. So the idea of having to put what you reap out of the land back into it was kind of second nature to me.
Over and over, as kids were told to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So why is it that there is a general feeling of indifference to the waste we produce? What is the cost of all this, really?
This is just a question to the universe, but how do you sell that idea of what you're doing today is going to benefit people 3 generations from now? And how do you weigh that cost versus the fact that I'm only paying 50 cents for a box of plastic forks versus $3.99 for a box of compostable plastic forks? Like, how do you rationalize that with somebody who's just not there with you, on that same plane? And I think sustainability, unfortunately, is cost prohibitive in a lot of ways, and I think we need to do what we can to make it more of an inclusive space. And I think that goes for climate change. Like, I live in a country where we're able to mitigate the impacts of climate change a good bit, but maybe some other country, what I'm doing here with my energy usage and my wastes is going to impact them. I find that important, but how do you sell that to the greater population to get them to think that that's important too?
There are actions we can take today to reduce our waste as college students living in a pandemic. Bring your own utensils and water bottle. Use a green box instead of getting your salad in a plastic container. Compost whenever possible. Together, over time, we can conserve a great deal of resources and instill a new spirit of caretaking and a culture disconnected from food and waste systems.